is a Bramble Jam podcast. Hi, I'm Bran, and I love Christmas movies that have been released since I was born.
I'm Alonso, and I love Christmas movies that were made in the century or so before Bran was born. And this
is the Deck the Hallmark podcast. Oh, it's good to be back on a Monday. Monday. It feels right. It's been a while. A Monday in January. Yeah. That's exactly right. Alonso, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
How was your holiday? I hope that it was good and full of fun and cheer.
It was terrific. And, the world is still a giant mess, but we made the best of it. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see still got the tree up because lapsed Catholic that I am, I still insist on it being there until Epiphany.
Yes, I have I still have a fake tree up in my house, but the real one that we have in the living room was, I woke up, I think on the 30th, and there were just like 10 ornaments on the ground, and I was like, I made it to New Year's Day, and I was like, okay. As long as I get into the new year, I'll feel okay.
Sure. Ours is still drinking water, which is amazing to me because it showed up the day before Thanksgiving, which was earlier than we wanted it to. But, what are you going to do?
Yeah, well, for what I paid for my tree this year, I wanted it to be drinking until St. Patrick's Day. But what can you do? What can you do? It's the world, Well, very excited this year. As a lot of people hopefully remember last year on Mondays, Alonso would join me and Dan, and we would cover a made-for-TV movie, Christmas movie from a different channel, such as Lifetime, Up, BET, etc. And go listen to those. Those are a lot of fun. Dan is no longer with us on Mondays. He's still with us as a person. And so Alonso and I were brainstorming what is something fun we can do. And I think we've come up with a pretty fun idea that will get us to Christmas in July. And it's something we're calling the 25 weeks of Christmas movies. It'll lead right up into Christmas in July. And we're going to do something crazy where each week, Alonso is going to bring to me a movie that came out before I was born that I have never seen before. I sent Alonso a very long list of movies that I have seen, such as Deck the Halls and stuff. And
it started as send me a list of movies you haven't seen. Then it was like, just send me the ones you have seen. How about that?
Yeah. And so I sent him that list, and he's going to bring me a movie that I've never seen. It's probably going to be in black and white. And from the cover, I'm going to hate it. But I'm going to watch it. And then we're going to talk about it, which is going to be exciting. Then the following week, and this is very exciting too, I'm going to bring Alonso one of my favorite Christmas movies that have come out since I was born. And chances are Alonso hates it. Or maybe
I've maybe never seen it. Yeah,
that's right. And so I'm going to make him sit through it. So it's a real every other week type of thing. One of us is going to be happy, I think. But I'm excited because Alonso, you'll remember this when we met. I had not seen It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, I remember.
And I have since seen it. Yes. I watched it that holiday season 2018. And I have watched it every year since. It is a fantastic movie, absolutely great. And so I am prepared to be wrong with my black and white thesis. Although I won't tell you how I watch It's a Wonderful Life, but I guess you could probably make assumptions. But I watch it, Alonso, and that's what matters. I watch it.
Baby steps. I hope, if nothing else, that this little experiment kind of like shows you that black and white movies can be awesome, and that you don't have to feel like they're like scary or good for you or something.
That's right. So I have no idea the movie that Alonso is going to tell me that I got to watch. And then he's going to tell me, he's going to set it up for us. We'll go to break, and in the break, it's going to be a very long, probably about a 2-hour break. We'll watch it, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. So Alonso, kick us off the first week of 25. Which one are we watching this week?
All right, so I'm going to get the ball rolling because we're doing these in chronological order. That was the other thing, and so it works out fine because I think this would be a movie I'd want to start with anyway. This is a comedy from 1940, and it is, I think, in a lot of ways the Rosetta Stone of the modern American romantic comedy. Like, you've never seen this movie, Bran, but I swear to you, you've seen at least 2 movies that I know of, and probably more, that borrow a lot from its basic premise, its plot, and just its general structure. And so we're going to go back to the source from 1940. This is Ernst Lubitsch's The Shop Around the Corner. Do you know anything about this movie?
I know the name.
Okay.
And that is it. I can't tell you a single thing about it.
Now, was It's a Wonderful Life the first movie you ever saw that had Jimmy Stewart in it?
Yeah. First and only.
Well, this will be your second.
Great. I love him. So let me ask you this, because it's a shop around the corner. I'm used to, from the title, it being apparent that it's a Christmas movie. How set my expectations so that I know what I'm getting into here with a 1940 movie.
It is set entirely, during the Christmas season in a store, which is where I think a lot of us wind up spending a great deal of the Christmas season. Like I said, you will recognize its rom-com bones in from other films that came later. And it's one of those movies where it is set in Hungary, because that's where the original play is set, but it is a very MGM film in terms of the fact that, like, almost no one's doing an accent, and Jimmy Stewart is not trying to pretend to be Hungarian in the slightest, and it's fine, nobody needs that. So yeah, Lubitsch is one of the greats of this genre, like Billy Wilder, who would later go on and make films like Some Like It Hot and The Apartment. Famously kept a giant banner in his office that said, "How would Lubitsch do it?" And there's
he had that in his own office.
In his own office, Billy Wilder had in his office a banner that said, "How would Lubitsch do it?"
Oh, okay, got it.
No, Lubitsch didn't have that.
I was about to say that is a bold move, my friend.
That would be kind of tacky. Yeah. But no, and so there's this thing that's sort of known as the Lubitsch touch, like the way that he was able to like integrate character and comedy and keep it light, but also, like have things to say about the human condition. This is just a really charming and funny movie. And again, none of these are in the same ways with when I was doing a film and a movie with Dan. I'm not out to punish anybody. These are movies that I genuinely love. I wrote about all of these films.
Don't know about that, though. I saw some of the movies Dan was watching for a film and a movie, and I beg to differ, my friend. I beg to differ. There was a movie where a lady just stared at a camera for like 10 minutes.
You will not have to watch anything like that for this show. I promise you that. Okay. But all of these are films that I wrote about in my book, Have Yourself a Movie, Little Christmas, and that I think are genuinely great. And I'm excited that you're getting to see them for the first time. I genuinely think you're going to love these movies. And I think this one definitely is going to get us off on a good start.
What is your history with this movie?
To be honest, this was a movie that I also got to after having seen at least a remake or two.
Okay. So it's been remade.
Oh, several times, yeah.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that after you see it, and you'll probably be able to name a couple of them off the top of your head. Gotcha. But I sort of worked my way backwards to it. But when one of the remakes came out in the 90s, I was running a film festival in Dallas called the USA Film Festival. And in our monthly classic series, I thought, oh, well, let's screen the original. And that was the first time I saw it. So I got to see it on the big screen and everything. And I was just immediately charmed. And I understood why people loved it so much. Like, this is one of those movies that if you look it up in books about cinema, they're like, everybody's just sort of rapturous about, and deservedly so. It's a really great film.
I'm very excited about it. And there's a link in the description of each of these episodes on Monday with how you can watch this from different various streaming sites. So I'm excited to check it out. Can you give me like a quick little synopsis so I kind of know what I'm getting into?
Sure. It's a love story about two people who can't stand each other, but also are wildly in love with each other, but they don't know it.
All right. I'm in. You've piqued my interest. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back from that break, I will have seen this movie and we will discuss it this is going to be crazy. It's going to, I think, take a lot of people by surprise with 4 segments. I think it's something we might do. I know, but maybe different segments. Who knows? Who can tell?
Razzle dazzle?
Maybe razzle dazzle. Maybe razzle. Listen, if a 1940s movie deserves something, it's a razzle dazzle. I'll tell you that much. So let's take a quick break. We'll come back with The Shop Around the Corner. A Shop or The Shop?
The Shop.
The Shop. Here on Deck the Hallmark. We're back. We're talking the shop around the corner.
Yes.
1940.
Mm-hmm.
First movie. I haven't seen it. Alonso, you love it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
I know we're doing pre-92 because that's the year you were born. Were either of your parents born in 1940?
I don't think so.
I'm going to guess not. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Just getting the perspective here. Okay.
Yes. So let's talk about it. Let's do the hot take. I'll let you start. I mean, it gives you obviously you like it, but I want to hear a little bit more about.
We don't get the brand plot synopsis on these. That's a disappointment.
No. I'm so sorry.
Okay, well, this is, I think, like I said before, this movie kind of lays out the map for so much of what we would think of as kind of the contemporary rom-com in terms of like the couple that can't stand each other but they actually love each other, and the the misunderstanding and the duplicity, and I think also like really the workplace comedy is kind of born here as well. Things that you'd be seeing, like the Mary Tyler Moore Show or The Office or news radio, like so many shows that are about these people that under normal circumstances would never come into contact with each other, but because they all work in the same place, you have these personalities bouncing off of each other. I think a lot of that is there, but this movie for me is just pure pleasure. The performances are so good. The writing is so witty. There's such great chemistry between Stewart and Sullivan. I just think this movie fires on all cylinders.
I agree. I do think it is. I did very much enjoy this movie.
Oh, good.
Alonso.
Good.
Jimmy Stewart is an absolute delight. He's just a delight to watch. There's just something about him that is just so much fun. Like there's no one else like him, I feel like.
Yeah, he even he sort of evolved over the course of his career. Like, I think It's a Wonderful Life is sort of the tipping point between the early part of his career, which is more sort of like, the kind of charmingly stammering comedy guy. And then later, he gets into much darker material. You look at movies like Anatomy of a Murder, or Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. But yeah, here he is absolutely just like straight up charming and just physically in charge of what he's doing, and his timing is exquisite. I just, you're right. There's nobody else like him.
I think the closest I can kind of come up with is, and I think Jimmy Stewart's a far superior actor, but he kind of reminds me of a Jim Carrey, where it's just such a, it's not just, there's something about the performance that is so engaging. You know what I mean? Like there's just something about it. And Jim Carrey, when he was at his prime, when he was just like, there was just something about him that was like, you were just watching and be like, man, this guy is just going for it here.
Well, I think, Tom Hanks plays the Stewart role in the remake, You've Got Mail. And I think that Tom Hanks is maybe about as close as we have to a Jimmy Stewart type now, where he can be very sort of like the all-American beloved boy next door, but then can sort of reveal these little quirky, odd bits. I mean, like early Tom Hanks was very goofy. If you look at like, Bosom Buddies or Bachelor Party or whatever, and then later he kind of comes into these more, the heavier dramatic work. And so, I would kind of put those two on the same plane in terms of, even when he's playing a fairly straightforward character like this, he'll find these little moments of, a double take or just a little kind of eccentric twist to something.
I think the thing that stuck out to me while I was watching this was the time that they take on things like scenes, the amount of time that is spent on a scene.
Yeah.
Like, so for the scene with the cigarette box, where they're introducing this cigarette box,
right?
Like that's a long scene about that box, and it just keeps going and going. And but it was really fun. Like I wasn't hoping that this scene, like, all right, let's just get going. Like I was enjoying it as it was happening, but I definitely noticed how long the scene was.
Yeah, there are times, I think, people often point to, like, I think Sesame Street as sort of the beginning of the end of our attention span, because everything was just so like, da-da-da-da, and on to the next thing, and so sometimes with older movies, you have to kind of let them play out, and they either feel very theatrically influenced, or maybe even in some cases sort of like radio influenced, but things could go longer. And sometimes that doesn't play in a modern sense, where like there'll be like a big reaction to something, or like a pause that just feels like dead air. But in this movie, you're right, the scenes are longer, they do play out longer than a contemporary filmmaker would maybe let them do it, but there's always so much going on, and everyone's so engaged and engaging in the scene that it never feels like you're like, get on with it already.
And then the other thing that stuck out to me while I was watching it was uh just it was so early. I don't know how the film history knowledge that you do, but I imagine this was early on with like a heavy dialogue, a lot of talking, and there's some scenes with audio interference, like where there's like some buzzing, like some slight buzzing.
Oh.
If you're listening. Now I rented it off Amazon, and so maybe it's cleared up in different versions. They've cleared up, but in the version that I was watching, there was some slight rustling. There was one specific scene where there was like a slight whistle for just a second that kind of sounded like when you put two walkie-talkies together for a second. Like it was just a really quick moment. And I found that to be just really interesting. Like, it was just not
I don't
perfect.
know. I watched the Blu-ray and I didn't catch that, but then I wasn't like listening with headphones on, so I might have.
I imagine for a Blu-ray, it's probably been fixed.
I would think, yeah. One would hope, yeah.
But I found that to be really interesting.
I just, I love the structure of this thing, like the way we learn about who these characters are at their core, like just even the supporting characters like Vadish, who's such a great villain, and just the way that everybody is instantly like, no, I didn't say that. I need a witness. I did not say that. Like that whole thing. Exactly who that guy is. The guy who every time Mr. Matichik says, "I just want your opinion," immediately like turns around and leaves. Like, I do not want to be part of this conversation. Like that reminds me of there's in the musical How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. And there's a guy who's like run the mailroom for like 50 years or something, and his whole secret is that like he never speaks up. He goes along with whatever the company says. If anybody asks for his opinion, he's I think the line is like, suppose a genius makes suggestions. He says, watch that genius get suggested to resign. So, there's those people who just like, they work in the company and they keep their head down and they don't want to like make any trouble. And that guy, just every time he turns on his heel and leaves the room when he hears the word, "I want your opinion," that just always makes me laugh.
Yeah. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thank you for. I'm happy. I'm happy that I have now seen it, because I've heard the title, so I'm very happy that I finally got to see it. Let's talk about feels, and I want to focus this specifically. I want to focus on Christmas. Okay. So I want to give some sort of like Christmas cheer ranking in this segment. Like, as we think about Christmas movies and we think about what we think of now with Hallmark movies, where every scene and every inch of the screen is Christmas thrown up. Like you watch these movies and maybe it's a little bit different. So what kind of ranking would you give for Christmas cheer? Because obviously you consider it a Christmas movie. It takes place at Christmas time. So where's it kind of at on that level for you?
For me, it is a combination of things. I mean, obviously, this is a movie that takes place over the span of, a couple of months. So it's really not Christmas until the end part there. But I think what it captures, first of all, like Christmas in a retail establishment is in and of itself, I think, interesting. And it's dramatically interesting, but it's also just kind of one of the public spaces that we associate with the Christmas season. Like I think Die Hard 2 being set in an airport is, also very much kind of touching on a place that a lot of us wind up getting stuck during the holidays and maybe wish we weren't at. So that aspect of it, I think, kind of holds it over as a holiday film. And then I think, for me, Christmas movies, you're right, Hallmark movies make it all very manifest and tangible, and here's the tinsel and the garland and the trees. But I think that there is something about the greatest Christmas movies that deals with its holiday magic, not in the sense of like Santa or, miracles happen, but I think that it addresses this idea that Christmas is when we find our best selves. If you're Scrooge, if you're the Grinch, whatever it is, there's something about the season that allows you to tap into the best version of yourself. And I think you see with Clara and Alfred that they like do nothing but snipe at each other, and they like, they're very hostile to each other in person, although they're very romantic in these sort of, in the ethereal zone of the post office. I think that as they at the end kind of find this peace, not just him knowing all along that she's the pen pal, but even her kind of softening and saying, you know what, when I first started here, I liked you, and all that kind of stuff. I think that for me is that Christmas feel of like, there's somebody like, tapping into the better part. They're better angels.
Yeah. So, not enough Christmas for me. I have a, so like for watching the newest Spider-Man, right? Like at the end of the movie, it's really Christmassy, but I'm not going to just watch the new Spider-Man at Christmas. It's not a Christmas movie for me.
Sure.
So I kind of feel like that with this one. Obviously the Christmas stuff at the end, man, the snow in these movies, like it is just amazing, and I love it. I love to see it. The scene that kind of made me feel Christmassy though, and it was one of my favorite scenes of the movie, was when Jimmy Stewart was talking about the Christmas bonus, and
yes.
and he's like, for a moment you're a millionaire until you open it up, and it's just like this one, like it really is. You get this Christmas bonus, and you don't know how much it's going to be, and there's something about it that's just exciting, and so there were definitely elements of it that felt Christmassy, especially towards the end, but not enough to. It's not gonna enter the brand circulation of Christmas movies because of that.
But I think that makes it a kind of movie you could watch whenever, and
For sure.
It absolutely works. The whole thing with the bonuses, I love Peppy in this whole movie. It's like one of my favorite things. But just at the end, when the new delivery guy gets handed a bill from Magic, it's like, too much.
Yeah, right.
It's also worth noting, by the way, real quick, like this is a period piece, but it was a period piece when it came out, because 1940 Hungary was dealing with this little thing called the Nazi army, and so like even when this movie came out, this was already sort of like a charming throwback to like an earlier time of of Europe being this sort of like sentimentally civilized and at peace kind of place. So we look at it this 80 years later as being like this the movie set in a time and place, but even when it was new, it was already trying to be kind of like harkening back to an earlier period.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So I think it's a good transition movie, and I think that's good. Like transitioning out of Christmas, but you still want a little Christmas cheer. It is a good January 10th Christmas movie, because you still want the Christmas cheer. You get a little of it towards the end of the movie, and the Christmas that is there is great. Like it's excellent. So I think in that it's for me, I put it on the Christmas transition movie list and not in the Christmas movie list, if that makes sense
for Januaries to come.
For Januaries to come. That's exactly right. To wrap up, I want us to spend some time talking about movies that kind of come to mind when you think about this. And I have one, if you can believe it, but I want to let you go first, because you are who you are. But movies that have been maybe inspired by this throughout time and space.
Sure, yeah. I mean, this one, like I said, specifically has been remade officially a couple of times. Not just You've Got Mail, but there was a Judy Garland musical called In the Good Old Summertime with her and Van Johnson. That's basically a straight up remake of this one. And there's a Broadway show called She Loves Me that also kind of is adapted from the this is based on this. All of these are based on a play called Parfumerie. And then, of course, I would say unofficially, you've seen this kind of plot pop up in a lot of places. Most recently, and I don't know if this was going to be the movie you were going to bring up, but in Hallmark's Bottled with Love.
Not the one I was going to bring up.
Bottled with Love is absolutely shop around the corner. If you go back and look at it, Andrew Walker and I forget who the leading lady is. They have this whole email romance where they don't know who each other is. And then then they have to work together, and they there's conflict, and then he figures out who she is before she discovers who he is. And yeah, that's one of many rom-coms over the years that have sort of lifted from this premise of, the couple who correspond romantically, but in person are at odds.
Has it ever been remade, like title and all, like just straight up? Like,
no. But like, I know that Shop Around the Corner. I mean, I know that You've Got Mail acknowledges parfumery as its source material, or perfumery as this does as well.
How long before Shop Around the Corner was that play? Was that
the play? I think it was in the 60s. So you have In the Good Old Summertime in the 40s, the play in the 60s, You've Got Mail in the 90s. So, every so often it's a well people go back to.
Gotcha. It made me think of, going back to the Hallmark well, a movie from this past year, which was Christmas Promise, which is the phone relationship where you're.
Oh, right.
It's very different,
yes.
but similar enough to where you're communicating with somebody, but you are also in relationship with that person in real life, and you don't know it. And then the thing that always happens in Hallmark is they find out and they get really mad. Like, I can't believe you did. And so I did appreciate that in this one, it was just, I'm excited. Like, I'm very excited that it's you type of thing, which is great.
Right.
And Christmas Promise, she has to go off and be mad for a little bit, which is fine, whatever. But also happened to be one of, in my top 10 for the year. I love the Christmas Promise. I know I'm not, that's not a popular choice.
We'll talk about that when we get to the year-end wrap-up episodes.
It's not in my top 5, guys.
Okay.
So everyone can just relax. Although I did think about throwing it in there, but what can you do?
I would say if you're a fan of Shop Around the Corner, I would very much recommend that you check out a film that Ernst Lubitsch, the director, made the year prior to this in 1939, a comedy called Ninotchka, which stars Greta Garbo as a Soviet functionary who comes to Paris and is seduced by Melvin Douglas and sort of like, learns to laugh, learns to, like enjoy life and not be so strict and uptight. And it's a very charming comedy. And in fact, the guy in the film who plays the dude who's always leaving the room whenever opinions are being solicited, he has a lead role in that film, and he's very funny in that one as well.
I think the thing that I appreciate, and I hope that this continues, is that this like, I felt like when Dan was doing a film and a movie, he was just always watching like just really long movies, and I don't have time for that. I don't have the attention. So I appreciate this was a nice smooth hour 38 in and out, and that's a golden window of time.
I can't promise they'll all be that sleek, but I'll see what I can do.
See what you can do. Well, we did it. Shop Around a Corner. Next week, I'm going to surprise you.
Right.
Alonso, I'm going to tell the listeners what I'm going to assign you. You need
to
give
me a thumbs up when I can hear again.
Okay. So next week, I'm going to make Alonso watch one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time that I know he doesn't like. It's Jingle All the Way. That's what we're going to be watching next week. I can't wait to tell Alonso. It's going to be a lot of fun. Until Alonso, this was a lot of fun. Next week is going to be fun for me, but I'm excited for 2 weeks from now. This was a very enjoyable experience.
This is going to be a fun show. I hope people, climb on for the ride. It's going to be a really interesting back and forth between our own tastes in Christmas movies.
Yes. Until next, really tomorrow, but until next week, Alonso, I'll tell you, maybe I'll be the first to wish you a Merry Christmas.
Deck the Hallmark's a Bramble Jam podcast. It's presented by Philo TV. It's produced by Brandon Gray and recorded live in, Greenville, South Carolina. Set decor is by Plum at Haywood Mall. For more information on Deck the Hallmark, you can go to deckthehallmark.com. For more information on Bramble Jam Podcast Network, you can go to bramblejampodcast.com.